Have you ever noticed that almost all advice from old people is never more than a short sentence?
Never stop learning.
Communicate, speak with your parents.
Try different things.
Finish your schooling.
No, don't let nobody beat you down.
Some of the greatest advice ever recorded has been just a few words in length. There's this really cool looking old dude I'm sure most of you have come across on YouTube, Dry Creek Wrangler School, and the advice he gives is always stupidly simple. Set boundaries, educate yourself, be dangerous, be calm, be wise, and accept that life is hard. Now, there's something we have to account for here. The messenger. This guy looks like he's been around the block. He owns a farm, he's got a long beard, he's lived on this earth longer than most of us, he's frequently seen smoking a cigar, and all of this evokes a certain aura out of any advice he gives. Like, can you imagine if a 17-year-old tried to deliver this line?
Don't look to your surroundings for peace. Create your own peace. And you create your own peace by removing turmoil.
You'd have loads of people in the comments saying stuff like, well, what do you know? You're just a kid. You don't know how hard my life's been. You got a lot to learn. I bring this up to highlight an important fact about getting advice. The advice that you get is almost, if not just as important as the person giving it. Depending on who gives the advice and at what point in your life you hear that advice, the way you perceive it will vary. Sure, the wrinkles, scars, and slow cadence of old people's voices definitely influences us to trust their advice more, but is their simple advice really better? In other words, is the advice of past generations timeless or just outdated?
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
If Ferris Bueller said that in 1986, I can only imagine what he would have said now. Technology has sped up the perception of time and our advancements tenfold. What was once applicable to several spans of generations is in some cases becoming less and less relevant to just one. Think about what it must have been like before we had a proper name for ADHD. If someone had extreme difficulty focusing on the simplest of tasks to the point where it was affecting their daily life, their parental figures probably said, "Just stop being so damn antsy and focus, damn it." They had no tools with which to label the symptoms of this condition, and as a result, the only thing they could really do is cope with it the best that they could. But now if you start showing symptoms of ADHD, the advice that you're gonna get is much different. You will most likely be told to go to a doctor, and if the problems persist, you will be diagnosed with ADHD and maybe given meds such as Adderall to help you focus. This is a problem to address with the advice of the old. They weren't dealing with the complicated nuances of modern day mental health. While yes, everyone shows symptoms of ADHD-like behaviors to some extent, there's a big difference between someone who occasionally can't focus and is forgetful, and someone who finds it impossible to finish even the easiest of daily tasks. Our improved understanding of psychological conditions has been a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's great that we now have more tools to precisely define various diseases and mental health issues so that we can get proper treatment and start finding solutions to them. But when the average uneducated person has access to all of this new information, and social media is filled with people making content about common psychological disorders and their symptoms, it can lead a lot of people who don't actually have these problems to convince themselves that there is something wrong with them. I'm sure at least 80% of you watching this have had the experience of feeling a slight pain in your chest or a headache, looking up your symptoms on Google, then convincing yourself that you're dying. In those cases, if it was really just something temporary and harmless, it would have been way better to just let the issue subside or listen to older people's advice, which probably would have been in the form of, maybe you just need to take a nap and drink some water. I'd also imagine that in rare cases, people who genuinely had ADHD in the past, before we called it anything, might have actually been able to handle it better than people today who have access to all this new information about it, because they were so oblivious to the proper diagnosis. That, and they also probably could have handled it better due to the fact that they weren't facing a million different dopamine-inducing stimuli every single day. But this is what I'm talking about. There are better, more relevant ways to handle things like different mental health disorders that require advice from today and not past time periods. And that's my biggest criticism with advice from the elderly. With so many distractions trying to grab your attention every minute, it can feel impossible for even the average person to do a task for more than 10 minutes without instinctually pulling out their phone and scrolling. One of the best ways I've found to combat this is through a good pair of noise-canceling headphones, and that is why I want to talk about today's sponsor, Soundcore. At the core of everything I've accomplished over the past few years is thousands of sessions where I put on some headphones, turned on some relaxing video game music, and got to work. I've actually been using soundcore since all the way back in 2021 when they first sponsored me, so when they came back to me to have me try their new product, these over-the-ear headphones, the soundcore Space One Pro, I was amped. They're really compact and easy to fold up thanks to their engineered flexi-curve structure patented technology, and come with this really nice carrying case so you can take them anywhere without having to worry about shoving them in your bag without protection. The 4-stage noise cancellation system is probably the best I've ever used and really allows me to just zone in on the work I'm doing without getting distracted. But of course you do have the option to turn off the noise cancelling if you need to. The sound quality is also some of the best I've ever heard, and it's cheaper than some of the most popular over-the-ear headphones that people use. The battery life is 40 hours with noise cancelling active and 60 hours without it, which is pretty insane. I've been using them pretty much every day since I've gotten them for multiple hours at a time, and I can say they are the most comfortable over-ear headphones I've owned. It really is an amazingly designed product, very high quality, and so easy to just fold up like this. So if you are in the market for some really high quality headphones at a reasonable price, you can go to the first link in my description to grab them. Now let me tell you what those who have lived longer than us have figured out much better than most of us. So I'm currently preparing for a 3.5-week trip to Japan in October, and the way I've been preparing is by studying the Japanese language. I've been doing a lot to hone my skills. I've been studying flashcards, listening to podcasts, and watching TV shows. But the one area I haven't exercised enough practice in is speaking with others in Japanese. I became aware of an app called Hello Talk from a friend, which allows you to join voice rooms of people from many different languages. And although I was nervous of what I could actually produce, I decided to join a few voice rooms and actively participate in speaking. The first few days of doing this were really difficult. I had accumulated a lot of knowledge in terms of general words I can use and the way they are placed in sentences, but creating sentences from my own head was a whole different experience. That, paired with my reluctance to embarrass myself, made me appear to be an absolute beginner because I couldn't just form even the simplest of sentences. But on day 5, comfort started to set in, and I was greeted with an advantageous opportunity. I joined a voice room with a young guy, and we went back and forth exchanging some simple conversation. Ima nanji desu ka? Which means, what time is it now? Nani o shiteiru? Which means, what are you doing? Stuff like that. Then, about midway through our talk, a person with a profile picture of an old lady joined. Her name was Sakura, and she had the American flag symbol next to her profile picture, which indicated that she lived in America. It turned out she moved to America from Japan about 8 years ago and received citizenship. She joined the conversation and helped the young dude and I translate more difficult sentences, and amidst all of that, I decided to ask her this question, in Japanese of course. What is the most important lesson you've learned in your life? She took a second to think about it. Well, she said, in the morning, I wake up and I have a cup of coffee. I'll water my plants and talk to them. I think talking to your plants is important. Then I'll see my friends and we'll chat outside while enjoying each other's company. The advice was just as I expected. Stupid simple. Upon hearing this, some of you might be saying to yourself, that's so true, grandmas do know best. While others will say, well, that's easy for her to say, she's retired and can do whatever she wants. But this is the stupid simple advice that is the best. And I think a lot of us have lost our ability to keep life simple as a means to enjoy it more. All throughout our lives, we have constantly been told that more is better. More friends, more money, more social status, more push-ups. Any industry you can think of has now been created to optimize every single aspect of your life if you have the funds with which to do so. This life optimization brought about by constant additions to your daily routine, I believe has been a total plague on lost young people. We have overcomplicated everything. If you want to sleep better, you gotta get this sleeping mask and tape your mouth and buy this $1,000 mattress pad that cools your bed and wake up right before sunrise. And I'm not even saying most of this advice doesn't work, because I do a lot of this and it helps. But what if the majority of the solution was simply found in having a life you actually enjoy on a day-to-day basis? Because really, most modern problems can be attributed to having too many things on your plate at once that keep you up at night and worrying about the future. A lot of you think that if you do just one more thing, you'll finally find the thing that ends all your problems. But I think that most of your problems will be fixed when you focus on minimizing and subtracting from your life, keeping it as simple as possible. But wait, this self-help guru said if I want to fix my issue of not being confident, I have to fix my face and bias program and do all these small little tinkers to my life so that I actually feel good. Why do you think there's tons of industries for things now? It's not just because modern life is more complex and we're able to solve more issues. It's also because people need you to have a problem even if it doesn't exist so that they can sell you something. And to be honest, for a lot of you, you secretly want the answer to your problems to be more complicated than they are as a way to justify the negative habits that you're still doing. I've fallen into this trap of constantly needing more at several different periods in my life. Like at the start of this year, I was hyper focused on making as much money as possible. I told myself, all right, we're just gonna go all out. I'm gonna start posting short form content every single day. I'm gonna run a marathon. I'm gonna start a free community that will funnel into a paid community and make a bunch of courses and have coaching calls, and you get the idea. Can you guess what happened? All it did was produce more stress in my life and make me worry that I was never doing or achieving enough. I had abandoned my commitment to effortless growth, which I announced was going to define my year back in January. But once I connected back to the simplest of timeless principles, something beautiful started to happen. Instead of always worrying about making sure I will be better off in the future, I instead asked myself these two questions. Is what I am doing right now aligned with what I intuitively feel I want to do? And is this thing probably going to set up my future self for more prosperity? If the answer to those two questions were yes, then all future worries dissipated. You see, the main reason life is so hard for you and that you worry and overthink so much is because you think there's a chance the future will be as bad or worse than the present moment. And it feels that way because you are spending your time worrying instead of simply just doing beneficial things that will create a better future for you right now. If you knew that the actions you were taking today secured at least a somewhat better future for your future self, what reason would you have to worry? Because that better might not be enough? Because it wouldn't fit society's expectations of better? Because this person online told you you gotta make this much money or have this car or this house or this many friends to be better? What a load of bullshit. The real problem is you have too many expectations for how the future should go that you can't even enjoy what you're doing right now. This advice is completely backwards from what most gurus and my past self would tell you. They'll tell you to write down exactly what you want your future to look like and constantly check in with yourself to make sure you're making progress towards that future. And while it's obviously important to have a direction in life, if you make that future too strict and detailed in its expectations, all you're gonna do in the present is worry that you might never get there. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca was quoted to have said, "The whole future lies in uncertainty. Live immediately." The ones who spend their time worrying about the future will be swiftly surpassed by those who are creating it right now. And you create it right now through positive action in the present moment. That is it. That is the key. That is the thing you are looking for in life. That is success. Stop setting metric-based goals related to views or subscribers or money. Instead, show up for yourself every day, do work, live now, and there will be almost zero chance that your future life is anything but better than it is now. It sounds too simple to be true, but it really is. Every time I have worried that my life might not work out the way I want it to, one of two things happen. It does, or it doesn't. And even if it doesn't, it does actually end up working out in the end, just not the way I thought it would. I used to be unable to live with that fact, but now I've realized that is just how life is. But still, so many of us can't bear that fact. It's insane. All I needed to do was focus on the things I naturally feel drawn towards, put in work towards those things, don't overexert myself too much, and most of the time, things work out in the end, even if it isn't what I originally thought working out looked like. Life is that simple, but you've been convinced it is not. All you have to do is actually start listening to what your body and brain are trying to tell you to do that is good for you. To some, that might be starting to pursue a professional dirt biking career or become a power lifter. To others, it might be as simple as not walking into Burger King when your body tells you you need to stop eating so much junk food. Whatever it is, it should feel like growth that is as natural as brushing your teeth, but still poses difficulty that helps you improve. Whoever you are, I can promise you that the answer to most of your problems is not in more, but less, and letting go. That doesn't mean it's easy, especially in a world that's doing everything it can to make you crave and consume more, but life really is as simple as the timeless advice that has been passed down from generation to generation. Most of us forgot along the way that what life is really all about is finding your own version of the old Japanese lady's routine of making coffee, talking to her plants, and chatting with friends. Old people tend to dish out this advice more often than us because it took them their entire lives to realize that that was the key all along. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. Embody the timeless principles of generations past while using modern advice when applicable. Realize that less is more, and create the better future you worry you won't get to by simply doing good things right now. I would appreciate it if you watch one of my next videos that are on screen right now, but it's not necessary. You can do your own introspection without getting external advice. That is part of the theme of this video. So enjoy the rest of your day, and peace.